everyone. Just checking. Is this live? Yeah, we're live. Okay, if you're here in the, you could just probably comment hi in the chat box. I think this question, well, not this specific question, but just a problem solution question, was requested by someone last time, so we're doing it today. I know that a lot of you do find problem solution essays a little bit kind of confusing, and they can be a little bit more time consuming, that's true. So I've decided to do this one today. Let me just check real quick. Yep, this is working. All right, there we go. I see there's someone in here. You could drop by and say hi. Okay, so here's a question. Childhood obesity has become a serious problem in recent years. What are the primary causes of this, and what measures should be taken to reduce childhood obesity? So I have my keywords here: childhood obesity, a serious problem. Okay, what causes childhood obesity and how can you fix it? This is pretty straightforward. I mean, I guess you can't really ask for a simpler question than one about childhood obesity or obesity in general, right? Because you have so much info for something like this. You read about it all the time. You see articles about it, you see videos about it. I mean, questions like these and questions about the environment, they're super simple. I don't think anyone should and I'm just trying to be reasonable. I don't think anyone should have a problem trying to come up with relevant supporting ideas for really common topics. I'm just talking about topics like obesity or the environment. I'm not talking about question types, because I understand that, there's a wealth of information out there and it can be confusing to figure out, what kind of question type you have, in front of you. Of course, as long as you follow through each week, even if you're not a student of mine, you'll probably find it pretty easy after you watch a couple videos to find out. Oh, hey, Mitali. Right, so after you watch a couple videos, you find it pretty easy to find out, that, okay, this is what this kind of question type looks like. So that also isn't particularly complicated. In fact, nothing in writing is supposed to be complicated. It's supposed to be pretty easy and straightforward. And that's that. Okay, well, I'll get on with my work now. Right, so what's the first thing you need to do? You need to think of your ideas. So I've got body paragraph 1, I've got body paragraph 2, and I've got body paragraph 3 as well. Why? Because my first body paragraph is going to be about causes. The second one will be about the effects. And the third one will be about solutions, right? And so let's think of causes. This is simple. I mean, really. And I'm not saying this from my perspective, but I'm saying it because, again, like I said, this is something you'll doubtless have read about. You'll have watched videos on it. You'll have read news articles on it. So questions like these, topics like these, but topics of these sort really shouldn't be difficult to think of. Yeah, sedentary lifestyle, very good. Well, children, yeah, they do. I mean, it used to be the case that children would go out and play. Nowadays, of course, not even nowadays, I would say since the past 10 to 15 years, it's become more common for children to just, play PC games or things like that, PlayStations and all that. Right, so these are really common topics. No one should have a problem thinking of relevant things. Remember, you have to keep it simple. There are no points for creativity on the IELTS, so don't bother with that. It's just a waste of your time and energy. But you do need to develop a reading habit. That's what I keep saying, and I'll keep saying it over and over again, because if you don't work on reading, and you don't have to read books, you don't have to read novels, no one's expecting that from you, but you do have to be able to read at least short form articles. It can be something as simple as reading the news, right? It can be something as simple as, even if you go to news.google.com, they have a very good service. You can handpick which topics you want to read about. So it doesn't have to be boring. Reading does not have to be boring. It can actually be a lot of fun. Anyway, so thinking of causes, one obvious thing is lack of exercise. And whether that's through play or, in school as well, you actually do have like physical training in school, which isn't, I don't think it's popular anymore. I'm not really sure though, but obviously you only spend like 8 hours at school and kids don't play anymore. What else? Rise of processed food. It's not just, you can't just say diet, because we've had sugar and fats and oils since a long time. That that can't just be the cause. Why has obesity exploded as a problem? Mainly because of, convenient processed food, right? Imagine if you couldn't just go to a store and grab a bar of chocolate. If you had to create it from scratch, would you still want it? Probably not, right? And the last idea could be something as simple as, let's say, I've already, used lack of exercise as a point, so I wouldn't repeat that. I wouldn't even say lack of playtime, because, it's the same thing. Exercise when you're a kid is obviously not hitting the gym. It's just, playing around with your friends. Yeah, low level of physical activity. Yeah, very good, Rinky, very good. Yep. So, what else could it be? Let's see. How do you become obese? It could be diet. Well, there are, of course, genetic factors as well, but I feel like genetic factors are just a very small, minority. I don't think it's, funnily enough, I don't think it's broad enough to include here, because it's such a tiny thing. It's very rare for someone to truly have a genetic problem and that causes their obesity. So let's see what else we've got. Okay, great. We've got another, maybe this could be a little bit controversial, but lack of, I would say, parental attention. And not specifically attention, but just that, it's far easier for a busy parent to simply just, hand off like a packet of whatever, like get something ready to eat, right? I mean, it's just the way lifestyles are. So there we have our three ideas, and then we think of effects. What happens as a result of childhood obesity? Obviously, you have an increased risk. I mean, your immune system isn't the best, and that's bad because you can, face a higher risk of getting other kind of infections or diseases, right? We've seen that with the virus. People who are obese have a higher possibility of being infected. So if your immune system isn't strong, which obesity can harm, you're more likely to be prone to other infections and things of that sort. So that can be one of your effects. They might even face bullying, right? I would say social activities can be impacted. And what else? Obviously, I feel like maybe immune system might be a very tiny thing, so maybe we can just say increase in incidence of other illnesses, right? Yeah, unhealthy food habits. Oh, okay, yeah, unhealthy food habits could just be like, point two, that's the rise of processed food. Oh, okay, I think there's some kind of delay. So right now, okay, yeah, there's definitely like a 5 or I think 10-second delay in what I'm saying and what they're showing up here. Hopefully I'll have it fixed by next time. Right. Okay, so we've got increase in illnesses, increase in bullying, or rather just, that there's social, maybe we could just say that, it impacts their confidence, right? And because they're not so confident, they're less likely to take part in, social activities, whether it's going out to celebrations or even getting the confidence to take part in things. Maybe I'll take this out. I don't know. It's not a fixed thing. See, these are just rough ideas. You can always change them. It's not necessary that you have to stick to these. You can always change them. Nothing's set in stone. Right. So, what else? Wow, why am I stuck here? I mean, there's a lot I could say. I just don't want there to be an overlap, right? Increased incidence of other illnesses. What else? What else happens as a result of obesity? We could say potentially that, let's see, we talked about illnesses. Maybe we can break that down into, you could potentially say that they, oh yeah, of course, this impacts adulthood as well. So, um, you might get diabetes, you might get what's that, heart disease as well, and things like these. Like once you get them, you can only manage them. You can't just like get rid of it, right? I don't have to actually write this much when I'm making notes, but I'm just making it clearer for the people watching. So, of course, you are more likely to fall ill when you're obese, right? And that's just general illness. This is just general illness. This is more specific. This is something that follows you through the rest of your life. So even if you lose the weight, you still have the diabetes and the heart disease, right? Some things have long-term impacts. I guess you could even say like dental issues, things like that. Let's say you lose a tooth or something. But I guess if you're very young, you would still just have, the milk teeth. So that might not be relevant for all kids of all ages. So I can only really choose things which are relevant for kids of all ages, not just very young kids or older kids, because childhood, essentially, it's 1 to 18. The second you're 18, you're an adult. You're still a teenager though, but that's a different thing. Now we think of solutions. One solution could be, you could potentially ban the sale of processed food in schools, because obviously cafeterias do sell processed food. So that's one solution. Another solution would be maybe health education, right? Not just in school, but even by parents. What could be another thing? Um, an increase maybe focus on outdoor activities, and that doesn't necessarily have to be like playing, but it can even be, develop an interest in hiking and things like that. Yeah, high chances, exactly, Varun. Diabetes, very good. High chances of things like, yeah, that's right. Right, right. As I was saying, outdoor activities don't necessarily have to be playing, but they can even be, you know, making the child develop an interest in trekking, hiking, just other things, nature walks, stuff like that. That can be another thing. I mean, there's probably many things you can do. For example, I could even propose like a tax on higher tax, obviously, on processed food items or anything that has, let's say, a sugar level of more than 10%, per 100 grams or 100. But I mean, yeah, you can. These are just a few ideas. There are so many other things you could potentially write. So I'm not saying these are the only right things. There's a huge range of things you can include. These are just a few options, and that's good enough. You don't need to reinvent the wheel to write a good essay. Okay, let's start with the introduction. I have all of my ideas here. Okay, so first I need a background statement. My theme is obesity. It's quite simple to write something about obesity. I mean, you can easily say, um, owing to, could I say, advancements in technology? Are they really to blame? Maybe we can say just, changes in lifestyle, right? Because since even the past 50 years, people's lifestyles have changed immensely. They're not the same, I would say, even in the past 20 to 30 years, right? So owing to changes in people's lifestyles, and I could even quote, I guess, the Industrial Revolution, because the Industrial Revolution made it possible for there to be large scale manufacturing, right? I mean, if you can go to a store today and grab like, a pack of orange juice or something, why is that? Because of the Industrial Revolution. You don't need to know that, but if you do know that, you can use it. You can use any of your knowledge. So owing to changes in people's lifestyles, yeah, this is a bit too much. I think this is a bit, it's not wrong, but it's just a bit too much. So I can simply say, owing to changes in people's lifestyle since, let's say, the end of, okay, again, this doesn't really have to be this way. This is just my opinion. I think lifestyles have changed a lot. We have faced a great period of prosperity since the end of World War II. So naturally, I mean, there hasn't been, well, except for the pandemic, there hasn't been some kind of war or something that, stops production, right? I mean, imagine if there was a war, manufacturing and all of these activities wouldn't be stopped, but they would, be producing other things, right? And naturally, obesity would probably go down because there would be food shortages and things like that. Okay, that's taken a dark turn. Right, so owing to changes in people's lifestyles since the end of World War II, well, let's see. Owing to changes in people's lifestyles since the end of World War II. Obesity, or maybe just, we can say people's diets have changed a lot, especially in children, has now become commonplace. You can, of course, just write the word common. That's also okay. It's just another word, same meaning. Owing to changes in people's lifestyle since the end of World War II, obesity, especially in children, has now, we can say, unfortunately, become commonplace. Or I can even add, which was once rare. Now this looks like there are so many commas in here, but they're all correct. That's the fun part of working with punctuation. This is not really necessary, so I'm going to take this out because, I don't want you to get the idea you have to write something so complicated. Remember, these are just ideal band 9 type essays. Of course, you don't have to do all of this. Even if you just do 60-70% of what you see here, you would still get a good score. Of course, that depends. No two people with the same score have the same skills. You will have to get some kind of, personal consultation from somebody you trust. All right, so let's get on with the other thing. This is a bit too large. Ideally, your introduction should be small. You don't want to write a 100-word introduction, 90-word introduction. Just keep it around, 45, 50 words. I would probably even say not less than 40 words, so that's a bit too short then. So here I can say my primary cause, of course, is just the whole change in lifestyle. So I already have my causes in here, and I can say commonplace. I know the sentence is really huge, but it's all perfectly fine, trust me. You don't have to write, again, you don't have to write such a big sentence. This is just like an option. And which what has it resulted in? A lot of obviously negative impacts in terms of quality of life, right? Which has in turn drastically impaired the quality of children's lives. In order to prevent this from becoming a global, we can say, it's already a global concern, so it feels kind of foolish to write something like this. Maybe we can say, in order to make children healthier, it is vital that we, yeah, I already have lifestyles here. I don't want to just say the same thing over and over. In order to make children healthier, we need to implement certain changes. What kind of changes? It's mostly there should be greater awareness, right? There should be greater awareness on health and nutrition. But I don't want to write something very specific because this is just, this is just the introduction. If you write something very specific in the introduction, then you're making it difficult for yourself later on. Yeah, all good ideas. Yeah, in the live chat. Very good. Yeah. Is this streaming? I think I get stopped or something. Because I've already written the introduction, but I'm not seeing it here. Just hold on, there might be issues. Yeah, I think there is an issue. Okay, great, it's back. Right, sorry, this is just the second time doing this, so there might be some issues, but that's okay. Right, in order to make children healthier, we need to not just educate them, but basically this is lifestyle change. Stop this, we need governmental action, and we need, yeah, maybe we can just say, governmental action, right? We need to implement certain, it's a long-term strategy, right? Because obviously, just because I ban processed food today doesn't mean that they suddenly stop becoming unhealthy tomorrow. Oh, perfect. Yeah, you can see that's great. Okay, long-term strategies. There you go. It's a little bit larger than what I would like, but again, it's not a problem. There's no upper limit on the IELTS. It's not like the CELPIP where if you write 220 words or 230 words instead of 200, there's no penalty. So technically, you can even write 500 words, but I mean, of course, you wouldn't be able to do it because of the time. And just because someone writes a longer essay doesn't mean they're good. You can write a great essay in 250 words, and that requires actually a lot of skill compared to writing 500 words, on the same thing. If the content is largely the same, I mean. Yeah. Okay, then we'll start. What's the next thing? I have to do body paragraph 1. And first I need a main idea sentence. So this is, of course, is just about causes. So we can potentially say changes. Again, I don't want to say changes in lifestyle over and over again. What else could I say instead of that? That's really important, right? Because I've already mentioned lifestyles here, and it's not wrong to repeat the word. I can repeat the word lifestyles. But it's just a preference. I wouldn't want to repeat it in the main idea sentence. You can repeat it inside the, body paragraph. You can repeat it in your supporting ideas. That's okay. But I would like to avoid, because the introduction, the main ideas, and the conclusion are so visible. They draw attention. They're very eye-catching. So you want to make sure that because see, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at your essay from top to bottom, right? And trust me, examiners know, like, if you just look at someone's essay, like in the first, I would say 10 seconds or so, you already have a good idea what kind of score they're going to get. Of course, they're going to evaluate every single thing that you write, every single word, every single punctuation mark, but they already have a good idea what kind of score you're going to get, that's because it's easy enough to say, just, looking at someone's introductions, their main ideas, a little bit of their body paragraph, and their conclusion. You can already tell that, okay, this is a 6.5, or this is a 7, or that's an 8, or that's a 5.5, and so on. Right, so what's the next thing? I have to write my main idea sentence. Okay, so this is about the causes of childhood obesity. I don't want to repeat childhood obesity. We can probably just say, you can even say excess corpulence, but that's honestly, it's odd. It's not wrong, but it's just very awkward. When you choose your words, you want to choose them with the right kind of context. You could use corpulence, bodily corpulence, excess corpulence. That's okay, but you have to frame it correctly. You don't want it to sound very awkward, like, oh, this person saw this word in a thesaurus and they decided to just, slap it on here. It never looks good. It never looks good. So stick to really simple language. That's a better choice than writing a word just because you saw it, you don't have to do it that way. Yeah. Right. Lifestyle changes largely, though. Maybe we can say modern children, right? Or postmodern children. Modern children have really poor, well, not poor, but like, I would probably say unbalanced, yeah? Really unbalanced lifestyles. They don't get enough exercise, there's increase, and it's very common, processed food, like nobody really bats an eyelid, right? Mm. I would probably say diet because, you have lack of parental attention, rise of processed food, but we could probably say nutrition, unbalanced nutrition, or lack of high quality nutrition. But then that's a minor thing, right? Because one of my ideas is not about nutrition. One of my ideas is about the lack of exercise, and exercise is a part of your lifestyle. So we can possibly say really unbalanced. That's okay. I can just, put it in here. Maybe I'll change it later. Maybe I won't. It's not that big of a deal. We can probably say owing to changes in maybe positive economies or something like that. Uh, because precises is a modern problem. You don't really have obesity as a large scale problem like 80, 70, even like 60 years ago, right? Because we didn't really have this kind of production capacity, plus people's lifestyles were very different. Modern children have really unbalanced lifestyles. That's good enough. And then you start with your first idea, lack of exercise. With the rise of personal computing or personal computers, well, not just personal computers, and the internet. This is because of the rise of personal computers and the internet, it has become more common for children to play PC games. What else do they do? Not just PC games, but like even just to, spend time online or watch YouTube videos, than to go outdoors and engage in play. we're not going to use kids. Why? Because it's an informal term. Your essay is formal in nature, so play with other children, right? This is because with the rise of personal computers and the internet, it's become more common for children to play PC games or watch YouTube videos than to go outdoors and play with other children, right? And then the next idea, what's the next idea? Rise of processed food. Okay. In addition, processed food is everywhere and is easy to, it's everywhere, plus it's affordable, right? Processed food is not so affordable, and with its we can comment on the high sugar and fat content because that makes it addictive, and with its which more and more children become dependent. Right? Process. There we go. And then lack of parental attention. Finally, or furthermore, most families have working parents, or in most families, both tend to work, as a result of which they might not have a lot of free time to, cook fresh meals, and may prefer to, order food, order takeout, or buy ready-to-eat meals, ready to eat, or maybe even order takeout, buy ready-to-eat meals, or simply get frozen dinners. I mean, that's ready to eat, sorry. Same thing. There we go. That's it. You don't have to explain in too much in detail. This is a very good explanation. You don't have to dig super deep, yeah? It's just like, okay, well, lack of parental attention, what does that mean? Obviously, if the parents don't have enough time, then what are you going to do? You still have to eat, right? So it just becomes kind of a habit. Let's order takeout, or let's get something ready to eat. While ready to eat is, of course, better than chips, it's still processed food. It's still very high in oil and, preservatives and things like that. And so it's the whole thing. It's so many factors, right? So thus, let's see, these factors, maybe we can say they kind of speed up the process, right? These factors make it all but impossible for children to grow up healthy, right? Then you have your next idea, which is the effects. What happens as a result of obesity? Is responsible for a wide range of ill effects, or maybe a wide range of social and physical hindrances, right? Because this is a physical hindrance, this is a physical hindrance, and this is a social hindrance. Wide range of impediments, maybe you can say hindrances even. Of course, when you write an exam, you don't want to write like this word slash that word. Don't do that. Only write one, because it's not like the examiner is not going to pick and choose for you, so you have to be very careful with that. Right, so as I was saying, right, okay, then I start my first sentence. Increase in incidence. Okay, one really important thing is you might want to check your ideas and you might want to rearrange them. I normally don't do that because this, for me, is fine. But here I can see that, you've got these illnesses, right? So it might be a better idea to club these two together. Got general illnesses, specific illnesses, and then you have bullying. Not a major thing, not everybody does, of course, but yeah, some kids do. So this is a better way of doing it. I think this is probably the biggest reason. Then you've got food, and then you've got parents. Because again, this is not super common. Most parents will still try and make an effort, right? There we go. Okay, so increase of other illnesses. I would probably say, most importantly, it causes a sharp rise in children's susceptibility to other illnesses due, due to its role in suppressing the immune system, which means that children are more likely to fall ill if they're obese. They are. And then equally important is the fact that such children are also they're more likely to why is it zoomed in? Sorry about that. Such children are also more likely to develop lifestyle illnesses such as diabetes and heart disease, which are unfortunately not curable but can only be managed and do in fact decrease their quality of life since they follow them into adulthood. There you go. And then the last thing, bullying. Probably also say it also impacts them socially. Many children tend to bully others, or maybe we can say obese children can be prime targets for bullying and often have, let's say, decreased levels of confidence and they may withdraw from social activities altogether. There we go. And then what else? Ostracized. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, ostracized is specifically when the community kind of shuts you out. So you could probably say ostracized. For example, criminals are ostracized, right? Because we don't want them to be part of society, so we kind of shun them. Bullying is similar in a way to being ostracized, but not quite, because it's like, well, obviously you have sympathy for victims of bullying, right? So it's not quite the same, but it's still a good enough idea that I might consider it. But I think this is pretty much fine. They withdraw from social activity. This looks like a big paragraph, but like I said, it's okay. There's no maximum word count. You of course would write something different. I'm just giving you some ideas. Yep. And the last sentence. Oh, neat. So one thing that's really important that I see a lot is people don't really leave spaces after punctuation mark. Any punctuation marks in general. Any kind of punctuation mark, you have to leave some space after the punctuation mark, okay? No spaces before punctuation. That's very important. And the last sentence could just be, right, who grow up unhealthy. It's not just the obesity, but it's also other problems arising from it. So I kind of want to allude to that. So children who grow up unhealthy face other issues as well. Very good. It doesn't have to be complicated. You keep it very simple. And then the last thing, what's my solutions? Okay. You know what, I'm just gonna put this in here so I can see it a bit more clearly. Okay, so what can I write for solutions? This problem I don't want to say it's easy to manage, because obviously it's not easy. It's in fact wrong to say it's easy to manage, right? Because it's going to be a long-term solution no matter what you do. So maybe we can say the problem can be contained. I would like to use however here, but that doesn't mean you have to. It's just because I want to kind of provide contrast and say, because so far what I've done is I've shown all the bad things. I've kind of, drummed fear into the mind of the reader. And then you want to show some hope. So it's this contrast of like, this huge problem, and then the contrast of, oh, here's a solution. So it's a little bit, light in that way. So, however, this problem, we can effectively kind of, will not completely eliminate, of course. And I don't want to say that in here, obviously, because you don't want to sound negative, like, oh, the problem can never be completely eradicated, but it can be managed. It's not wrong. I mean, that's really, you can actually write it as well. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, you as an author, it's your voice, whether your voice is positive, negative, optimistic, realistic, pessimistic, doesn't matter. That's your style as an author. So see, your style is not important. They're not judging you based on style. If you want to write something like that, you're more than welcome. It's good. It's a good sentence either way. If you were to say something like, while this problem may never be eradicated, it can still be effectively controlled. This is a very good sentence. If you want to write something like this, you can. I don't feel like I want to write something that's a bit negative, so I'm choosing not to. I'm actually thinking it's a very nice sentence. Maybe I will include it. Well, this problem may never be eradicated. I don't know. It just seems very negative, so I'm going to leave this be. However, this problem. Oh, yeah. Let's just read this. However, this problem be managed effectively. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. And this is why you have to read your work sentence by sentence. Of course, typing, if you're taking the computer-based exam, it's not a major issue, because see, I can still make changes here without it negatively impacting this. But if I hand wrote this whole thing, it would be very difficult to make any meaningful changes once I've already written the whole thing. So if you are doing the pen and paper exam, please don't follow the traditional advice of leave 5 minutes at the end to check your work. It's useless. You can't do anything meaningful once you've written the whole thing. Maybe you can correct some spelling mistakes. Maybe you can correct some punctuation issues. But beyond that, you can't do anything. You can't change anything meaningful, okay? So read your work sentence by sentence. That's super important. So this problem can be managed effectively, or well, controlled. Can be controlled effectively through, we can say maybe, what can we say? You have to do it yourself, and of course there's more community-based solutions like banning this in schools, and then there's personal solutions, right, through a mixture and personal efforts. Personal efforts would of course just be in the family, the parents take the responsibility, and community-based would be law and order and things like that. Okay, so what's my first idea? I've got, okay, batting. Again, let me check my ideas, see if they're in order. What's the most important thing? Would health education be the most important thing? I think so. Because obviously you cannot really expect kids to have the kind of knowledge if you don't give them the knowledge, right? So I think this is probably better. Maybe even, no, I feel like both of these could be good, because this could actually seriously prevent sugar and carb addiction, which is something very serious. Okay, right, health education. The most effective solution would be for there to be, again, it's very verbose. Naturally, I tend to write a little bit too much, but again, you will have a different style, and that's okay. These are just some ideas. Your presentation you can have the same idea presented in a dozen different ways by a dozen different people, and they could all be equally good. The most effective solution by far would be for schools, and because kids spend so much time in school, right? For schools and parents to implement effective health and nutrition education, which would aim to help children understand the role of food and or understand the role of diets in keeping their bodies fit and healthy for the rest of their lives, because you only get one body, right? This is like really huge. It shouldn't be this big, but that's how I want to explain it. Okay, and yeah, and if I wasn't doing all this talking, I probably would still finish it in 40 minutes. But again, everyone's mileage is going to be different, right? Your mileage may vary. That's the next thing, band sale. Yeah. I could probably say, let's see, I've already used moreover, I've already used. Yeah, is it necessary to explain why a good diet is important? But it is also vital to impose some curbs, whether legally or voluntarily. My style of writing is better suited to long form essays. I want to because it looks good, but at the same time, you don't have to do it that way. You can just write, you can put in a comma and then just say, yeah, this, the school should ban this stuff. Or you can be a little bit more verbose if you'd like. It's okay either way. Not only is it necessary to explain why a good diet is important, but it's also vital to impose some curbs on the sale of processed food. Since children spend so much of their time. And then the last thing I could say would be potentially, what else? What's my last idea? Okay, focus on outdoor activities. It is equally essential for children. I would probably say for children to have access, or maybe to have a healthy regimen, regular outdoor activities. It is equally essential for children to have a healthy regimen of regular outdoor activities, whether that's playing with other children or whether it's activities like trekking or hiking. Or I can just give an example, right? What else can you do? You can cycling and even maybe not like trekking, but at least just like hiking, or maybe, I mean, it depends really. It could be a good fun activity for the whole family. Okay, let's see. So here we've got, let me just read the whole thing once more so I have a better idea. It's always possible for anybody to make a mistake. You don't have to be anybody. Literally, it's always possible that you might have made some kind of oversight, right? So I feel like trekking might just be, is it too much for a kid? Again, that depends. I'd probably just write that. Doesn't have to always be play, but it can be other things also. It is equally essential for children to have a healthy regimen for outdoor activities, so that they can effectively burn, maintain a normal weight. There we go. That's it. And again, of course, I'll need to have a sentence toward the end with a few, I would say, timely. It is very much, it is within the realm of possibility. Very good. And then a conclusion. Keep it very simple here. No need for experimentation. In conclusion, what was I gonna write? Yeah, in conclusion, obesity in children, or childhood obesity, or any kind of phrasing you want to use. I normally like to do it in this way, talk about causes and effects first. So people's lifestyles or lifestyle factors play a huge role, or maybe they play, I would say, a primary role. Again, it's the same meaning, so it doesn't matter. No point butting heads over a tiny thing like that. So lifestyle factors play a huge role in the rise of, due to which, what happens as a result of that? There's many, essentially the children's quality of life suffers, due to which, oops, I cannot use a pronoun because I haven't used the noun, right? Due to which children's quality of life deteriorates. And then, in order to avoid that from happening, I've already said long-term measures, so I don't want to just pointlessly repeat that. Instead, I can say a few, I've already said that, right? I've already said that in this main idea sentence, right? A mixture of community and personal efforts. I've already said long-term strategy, so I don't want to use any of that, right? Because it's a conclusion. So potentially I could say, to avoid that from happening, a few timely, I've already used timely remedies, haven't I? Yeah, exactly. So again, it's kind of like, it's not necessary. Can you get a 7 if you repeated any of those phrases? Of course, you can even get a 7.5. I'm just trying to provide the best possible model out here, and that's why I don't want to repeat anything. So let's say, what could I potentially write in here? I could maybe say, in order to prevent that from happening, we could, you can always use, we, us, ours, that's fine. Because essays, of course, tend to be about society, but I would recommend not using personal pronouns like I, me, my, him, her, he, she, etc., because your essay is not about one person, right? Essays are academic, they're intended for a large audience, right? So in order to avoid that from happening, some measures need to be adopted as soon as possible. Health, and there you go. And I like to end with some kind of advice, recommendation, or warning. So if we ignore, if we ignore this problem, it might snowball. Or we can say, if we ignore this burgeoning issue, it might end up costing many children their lives. It is very much possible. You're at an increased risk of, illnesses and things like that. So it's obviously, it might end up costing many children their lives, right? Or it might severely impact so many children. There's, of course, many ways to express that. Let's see the whole thing. I wish it was possible to show you the whole thing in one page. I will figure out a way to do that. I don't know yet, but let's check the word count. This is the fun part. I think it's going to be pretty big. Oh my god, that's 526 words. That is unacceptable. But it's a problem solution essay. You're going to have 3 body paragraphs. Remember, these are just ideas. What I'll do is I'll probably write a more kind of compressed version of this. And, I was still able to do it in like 49 minutes with all the talking. So you can do it as well. This is, I would say, probably 200 words over what it should be. So I'm just going to copy this because, I still have some time. So I'm going to write a condensed version of this. This is an important skill, especially if you're doing, let's say, if you're doing a computer-based exam, or even if you're taking an exam like the CELPIP. A lot of people take the IELTS a couple times and then they try the CELPIP. It's also a computer-based exam, and you need the skill to be able to say the same thing using fewer words. That's in fact a very important skill. So let's see. This is okay. I think this is fine. It's a little bit larger than I would like, but it's not a major issue. It's probably, 50 words is okay. Now let's attack this one. So it's quite large. I don't know how it got so big. I was not expecting. 130 is definitely a bit too big. So let's shorten it. So this is fine. This is because of the rise of personal computers and the internet, or maybe we can say computing technology, computing and internet technology, right? With the rise of computing and internet technology, it has become more common, or we can say children are increasingly are increasingly choosing to play PC games or watch YouTube videos, choosing rather than going. Yeah, you have to maintain that. Yeah, let me just read that once more. This is because of the rise of computing and internet technology, children are increasingly choosing to play PC games or watch YouTube videos than why is there's nothing wrong with this. It's just you can ignore this full line. Choosing to play. Yeah, I think over might be, over might be a better choice. Over going outdoors and playing. And why is that? Because this is a parallel structure. Anytime you have the word and or even but, you want to ensure that the word before and after word or words before and after and have to be the same type. So going outdoors, playing with others, or eating and drinking, or to play and to jump, right? So it has to be of the same class or same category. So in addition, processed food is everywhere. Maybe we can say and is affordable. It's cheap. It's, well, don't use the word cheap because it's a casual term. But yeah, this is probably better to use. Processed food is everywhere, and 500 in just 48 minutes. Yeah. Well, typing is obviously going to be, quicker. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're confident in what you're writing, you probably don't have to make a lot of changes, right? And again, this, you don't have to, there's no competition. There's no extra points for writing more. There's no extra points for finishing your essay in 30 minutes. They don't care if you wrote the last word of your essay at the 39th minute mark. So that's nothing to worry about. Yeah, but maybe if you're thinking long term, how do I, improve my skills in the language, then yeah, that's something to consider. But I mean, you're rarely ever going to write an essay in your entire life unless you're going to college. I feel like this is a bit outdated. They probably shouldn't make people write essays, but it is what it is. So processed food is everywhere and is affordable, and with its high sugar and fat content can be quite addictive, due to which more, maybe we can just, due to which children become dependent on it or develop an addiction. But we've already said that. Or we can simply say causes addictions. It literally does in children. There you go, simpler. Same meaning, okay, fewer words. Furthermore, in most families nowadays, both the mother and father, or we can say both parents, same meaning, tend to work, as a result of which they might not have a lot of free time. Or maybe we can say free time is limited. Free time is limited. No, this sentence is better. They might not have a lot of free time, or they might not have the free time, right, to cook fresh meals, and may order at, let's just remove that, may order takeout or buy ready meals. Thus, these factors make it all but impossible for children to grow up healthy. Thus, it is often, yeah, okay, that's fine. This is just like 100 words, I guess. Let me see. Yep, that's 100. It's okay. This is, it's fine. Okay, this is a large one. Obesity in childhood is responsible for a wide range of impediments. Okay, most importantly, it causes a sharp rise in children's. Okay, this is. It doesn't have to be this complicated. I could probably just simplify. This is a huge sentence. Why is it so big? Most importantly, it causes a sharp rise in children's susceptibility to other illnesses due to its role in my gosh, this is. It suppresses the immune system. And causes, or we can say, which cause a sharp rise in children's susceptibility to other illnesses. It's the same thing. Increase in illnesses, they're more likely to fall ill. It's redundant. It's pointless. Do you see why it's so important to read your work? Most importantly, there you go. Don't even need this. It's just the same thing. Equally important is the fact that such children are also more likely to develop lifestyle illnesses such as diabetes and heart disease, here, which unfortunately not curable, can only be managed and no need for this, and decrease the quality of life since they fall them into adulthood. Moreover, it also impacts them socially. Obese children are prime targets for bullying and are often underconfident in social settings and may withdraw from social activities altogether. There you go. This also looks a little bit larger than I would like it, but I think it's like okay. No, that's a bit too big. Let's shorten that. Sharp rise in susceptibility. Equally important is the fact that children, that I've already said children, right? So I don't necessarily need to. It increases, or maybe that obesity increases the likelihood of developing, is responsible for lifestyle illnesses, which are unfortunately not curable, but only manageable, and decrease quality of life since they fall them into adulthood, right? Since they are essentially there for a lifetime. It also impacts them socially. Obese children are prime targets for bullying and are unconfident in social settings and may withdraw altogether. I think this is okay. Let's attack this one. This problem can be controlled effectively through a mixture of community-based, that's okay. Most effective solution by far would be for schools and parents to implement effective health and nutrition education, which would aim to pointless, help children understand the role of food and exercise in keeping themselves fit and healthy for life. Not only is it necessary to explain why diets are important, good diets. You can always pluralize things if you want to, decrease your word count. But it's also vital to impose curbs on the sale of processed food in schools and children. I think this is okay. I don't necessarily need this. Obviously, they spend time at school to avoid its consumption. It is equally essential for children. It's equally essential to impose, maybe, to promote a healthy regimen of regular outdoor activities. Obviously, it's healthy, no point saying that, so that they can effectively burn calories and maintain a normal weight. Therefore, there we go. With a few timely remedies, curbing this is possible. There we go. That's a little bit shorter. I don't think it's still, 300 words. It's definitely a bit bigger than that, but that's just how I do problem solution essays. This is still 457. It's like, okay, really overshooting the mark, but I'll keep it as it is. Do you have to write a 457 word essay? Obviously not, but I mean, is it a good idea to kind of, if you are capable, if you have the time, if you have the skill, can you do it? Yeah, you can. That's fine. There's no upper limit. They don't care how many words you're writing as long as it's, not less than 250. In fact, there used to be a penalty for writing just 249, 248 words or something, but they've gotten rid of that, I think, since pretty much a year and a half now. So even that is fine, but of course it's not ideal, right? If you're looking for a 7, which if you're on my channel, you most likely are, it's always a good idea to ensure that you write at least 285 words. That's what I've seen most people need to write to get, again, of course, not everybody who writes 285 words is going to end up getting a high score, but it's a good, estimate. I feel like this could still be cut down. It's way too big, but this is just how I explain things. I tend to write a bit too much, but this gives you a good range of ideas to draw from, right? So the next time you have an essay about obesity, even if it's not about childhood obesity, you can still use these ideas, right? Let's say if we talk about adult obesity, Can we use the same things? We can. Exercise, it's the same thing, right? Health education, people need to, like, educate themselves, go onto YouTube, learn about this, whatever. The only thing that wouldn't be relevant is playtime. I think that, yeah, the banning processed food in schools, of course, that wouldn't be relevant for adults. But obviously, you can think of some other solution. Go to the gym, right? And then we have these effects. Instead of saying that, I mean, it would still harm your immune system, you could still get diabetes, and you would still be impacted socially. Maybe you wouldn't be bullied. Of course, adults tend not to do that, at least not directly. But you still would feel underconfident. You would have to make very few modifications, even if you're writing an essay about obesity in adults. So it's pretty much all the same thing, even here, right? People are nowadays choosing to just talk to each other on the internet rather than going out and meeting friends, right? Processed food is everywhere, same idea. You can basically copy paste it. And people have jobs where they're working like 12 hours, 15 hours a day. They don't have the time to cook for themselves. Pretty much the same idea, right? So watching these each week will give you a good idea of what kind of content you can include. And like I said before, there's no points for creativity or originality on the IELTS. Of course, you don't want to plagiarize, but that's a different thing. I feel like it's extremely rare for anybody to think, yeah, I'm gonna memorize this whole essay and I'm just gonna dump it on the paper. I don't think anybody can really do that, but anyway, that's that's completely, like, impossible, really. Okay, so that's it for today. It's good to know that I finished this in a good amount of time. But next time, maybe I'll try and just do the whole thing with the talking and everything in 40 minutes. Again, you can always leave suggestions for exactly what type of essay you want me to write next time. This topic was suggested. Yeah, mugging it up is possible. So oh, I forgot to say, this question was actually asked yesterday, I think, on the 11th of May. So all of these questions that I'm going to use are going to be new questions, but you can suggest any questions you would like, or if there is a specific type of essay, like an opinion essay, problem solution, discussion, whatever, you can tell me that as well. In fact, this was recommended last week by Kushbu. So yeah, thanks, Kushbu. There we go. All right, then. I'll see you next time. Probably at the same time, but I'll just, I would like to do it at the same time each week. I just haven't set it up yet. But yeah, most likely I'll just send out a link and I'll join you next time as well. All right, then. See you later.